Welcome to YouMeWe Amplified podcast, where we have conversations with sheIMPACTpreneurs addressing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. These entrepreneurs are transforming where we live and work with sustainable social solutions. Each episode has actionable insights into what, why, where, and how to make a social impact. Whether you're joining live or listening to the podcast, this is a great opportunity to be empowered to make your contribution count. Hello, I'm Suzanne F. I'm an international speaker, author, a sheIMPACTpreneur community builder, and I'm extremely proud to say a multi-award winning impactpreneur. And guess what? Your host for YouMeWe Amplified today. So today we're in for a real treat. A woman I met, I think a year and a half ago now. We had an opportunity to have a speaking engagement together. And I loved so much what she was doing. And I thought, I've got to bring her to the podcast. So we're with Jordana Guimaraes. And she is a phenomenal woman who is the co-founder of Fashinnovation Inc., where they merge fashion, tech, and yes, the big word, sustainability. So you know why I love her already. Fashion Innovation as a global platform connecting voices from the fashion and innovation ecosystem, encouraging a more sustainable and inclusive industry. The fashion industry inspires, technology facilitates, and entrepreneurship makes it all happen. Doesn't it always? That's why I love interviewing entrepreneurs. And as part of the business mission, not only have they built a brand around sustainability, technology, and fashion, but they also create a bigger social impact by providing opportunities to talent in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Jordana also advocates for sustainability and the sustainable development goals from the United Nations by sitting on the board of different organizations. First and foremost, welcome Jordana to the show. Great to have you.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. I'm really happy to be here. I remember meeting you and thinking, wow, what a powerhouse. And so it means a lot, the words coming from you. And I'm thrilled to be here today.
What is the catalyst for you and Marcel, your partner in love and life, to start Fashion Innovation?
So it's really funny when you ask that question, but I think it's all about sometimes looking for needs, right, in different industry. We don't come from fashion or tech, which is ironic, but we did find a white space 5 years ago where we were going to a lot of events in New York and seeing a lot of different industries and different types of people on stage. But we never saw an event where there were CEOs and founders in the tech side and the fashion side coming together on the same stage, let alone even sometimes the same event to speak about where the future of fashion was headed. And so when we saw that, we were like, would this work? Would people want this? So we just went for it. And proof of concept, we said, let's just do an event and see what happens. And if there's a need for it, people will be drawn to it immediately. So it just started cold emailing. And then, yeah, everything else came after that, which is a crazy journey that we've been on in just 5 years. But we saw that really from like founder of Shopify, directors of NASA, VP of engineering at Google, partners at IBM, to be able to cold email those individuals and within hours get them to say, yes, I'll speak at your event with us having no website on the internet. No one could find us on Google and having these big companies want to participate. We were like, there's something here that you're looking for that they've been needing and no one has filled that need. So really that's how it all came about. And then everything ever since was just been a journey.
So let's focus on the social impact of the business. First of all, congratulations on
Thank you.
finding a need, but you did something different. You have values embedded into fashion innovations, and particularly you encourage a more sustainable and inclusive industry. So share how sustainability is promoted and measured within your organization.
Yeah. So I have to say that when I think of the word sustainability, I automatically think of people. And then when you think of people, I automatically, of course, think of diversity, equality, inclusion, and all the things that come with that. So I think for us from day one, because we're all from Brazil, so my whole team, myself, my husband, we were born and raised in Brazil. And in Brazil, there's this very strong warmth that we have and relationships that we like to form. And we just have this love for people. So I think leading with that has really been the key to our success because, of course, for us, it's all about people first, relationship first, social impact comes with that. And then profit is we are for profit, but we lead with people and relationships. So I think the way that we measure it is really by how far we've been able to take how we think of sustainability and attaching that to people, and how far we've been able to get globally with that mission. So, for example, just from when we started to today, the way that we measure it is today we have over 160 countries that are signed up to receive our content, that are engaged with us. When we have events for this upcoming one, even we have an upcoming event in a month, we have speakers in the Philippines and Bangkok and Saudi Arabia and Argentina, in Ghana, in Brazil. So like it's broad in terms of the world coming together. That's how we measure it because we look at what other companies are doing and everyone is doing great. But it's very rare to have platforms that don't focus just on the region in which they live or the regions in which they're most spoken about when it comes to an industry like fashion. So really that's how we've approached the whole sustainability angle, more really from a people perspective.
Really, no wonder we like each other because we're both doing a similar thing. I'm amplifying the voices of sheIMPACTpreneurs internationally that people don't hear from because they often go to names or celebrities or people they know. And yet, the people that are transforming the world for the better are people like yourself and many other. There's men on buying you. There are all kinds of people transforming the world. I have chosen to elevate and amplify the messages of people, women particularly, because I want to empower more women. Tell me specifically beyond the i- getting people involved. Tell us how you are sustaining people. Tell us more about that so we get a really clear picture of what that looks like in your organization.
There's a lot of moving parts in our business, right? But one of the key things outside of sustainability for us is entrepreneurship. And so my husband was my business partner, Marcelo. He comes from Endeavor, which is a not for profit globally that allows companies to scale through mentorship systems. When we started Fashinnovation, we had this idea, right? And then with that idea came, what if we became the Endeavor of fashion, the Endeavor of fashion tech? So, really allowing these entrepreneurs to grow, not only through our mentorship that we possibly could give them with feedback that we get from the bigger corporate companies that are also part of our ecosystem, but also allowing them to attend our events. Like all of our events are free. We do that on purpose because we want to democratize the information so that everyone has access to it. And at the same time, when it comes to like keeping those relationships alive, not always thinking, because I think when you always think about business and you look at someone that you know that you can help them, be it through social, economic status, be it through their business that you're building, whichever way you want to help them. A lot of people, they think, can I make money off of this person? And if that person can afford it in that moment or ever, they're going to be like, no, because I need to grow my business. Where really we think of it in a different way. We think of it, this will actually allow us to grow more if we give this education, this inspiration, this capability of someone who's starting and has no budget to be able to introduce them to an enterprise company C suite that can give them tips and tricks that they've used to grow, which most successful people we found are willing to give their time. They're willing to give their what they know for that other person to also have a chance to grow. So I think it's just like in maintaining the relationships, no matter whether or not it's profitable in terms of like our revenue model. And also not only maintaining them, but allowing them to grow so that eventually we can do more with them. And even if we can't, just so that we as an industry grow in the right direction. Like we all need to help each other. We all need to support each other. We all need to collaborate with each other if we're going to be an industry that we're all looking to have in the future. So that's how little things that we do.
I love what you're saying. People are coming first and you're offering the education for free. That's your social initiative right there. That being said, one of the reasons I'm interviewing you or having this conversation is you're a for profit organization, because that's
Yeah.
actually who I have conversations with. And as you said, you are for profit. So if you're giving away the knowledge and creating these relationships, where is your income stream coming in to support the energy, the time, and the execution of all of that? So where is the profit coming from?
We've definitely grown quite a bit in 5 years, and it's very exciting. And really, the way that we do it is we found that if we give the education at no cost and we allow that to be democratized, through that education, relationships are built. And also through that education, sometimes, let's say, I'm going to give an example. I think this would be easier. So let's say there's a startup company that's doing a tech for fashion solution in Israel. They go to one of our events, they watch the event, and they go, okay. So first, what our social aspect is that they learn what the industry needs for them sometimes to adopt new things into their technology, or to say, I have something here that the industry really needs, so I'm going to move forward. Once they have that frame of mind and they know how to move forward to fit the pain points and the needs of the industry, then this is where we come in terms of the profit. Then they come to us, and then we have many things that we can do to form those relationships with the people that they've seen at our events or that they want to get further connected to. And so what we do is we create projects. We always say we lead with education, which builds relationship and then organically turns into business opportunities. So that part is where we create things such as the mission trips that we do, the webinars that we put together, private dinners that we do for companies, activations that we can do internally in our events if you don't want to just sit to get the education, but you want to do more in terms of building those relationships. So this is where the profit part comes in. And this is where we can really help any business that wants to get in front of the industry fashion saying, but not necessarily to go into whatever it is that we do with them and say, I do this, it's amazing, you should buy it. But rather, create a conversation on the pillar of what they do, be the thought leader in that pillar, and then allow that person that we're reaching out to be a part of that project that we're compiling for them to organically say, wow, you know a lot about this topic. Maybe you know somebody, or maybe you are the company that I need to do this. And then that's where the value comes in from them paying us to create these projects for them. This is our business model today, is these activations and opportunities.
Love it. Love it. And what's interesting too, when you say sustainability, and I wondered if you incorporate from an environmental standpoint of sustainable products. Is
We do,
that at all consideration
yeah.
in who you collaborate with? So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I looked at the word sustainability went for like I've always known about it, but then it started getting talked about a lot and everyone had a different definition. And it was very hard to keep up with what was it, what was it. So I always said we do our best, of course, to bring speakers that can really speak on that and shape that for the industry. But at the same time, sustainability to them, to someone else, could be greenwashing. It's very tough, right, to manage. So, with that being said, we came up to a point where we said we're a platform where we hear all of the different points of views and we put you all together in a room so that you can either agree or discuss on them. There's never like fighting, there's never disrespecting each other, but just open narratives and shift perspectives. And I think that's super important in the industry because I feel like the fashion industry, I see it as an industry where it's very quick to, if one company does something that's wrong, that company is going to be put on blast today. And there's a cancel culture around, right? Which is okay, this company did this one time, can never like this company again. So no matter how much that company tries to do, the industry is just always going to find something in that good thing to turn it into a negative because they did something bad once. I don't necessarily agree with that because I think if we keep doing that company that's trying to get out of the bad that they did to start to get better and nothing happens overnight. And if we keep this cancel culture up, that company is going to say, I give up. I'm not even going to try because no matter what I do, it's not good enough. And they're never going to get better. They're never going to want to improve because they don't have that opportunity. So this is where we've decided to be like this platform where we do invite all voices. And sometimes we do have controversies and people that speak. And we've had speakers that said, oh, this person has spoken, so I'm not going to speak at your event anymore. That's too bad. But we do try to explain where we were coming from. And sometimes that explanation will shift their perspective and it'll be like, maybe then you're right. Maybe I'll give it a chance. So those things I think also do make a difference. And then on the side of environmental, we're partnered today with a lot of companies that Like Wasteware is one of our latest partners, where they take 100% waste materials from manufacturing companies in India and they turn it into new textiles. And it's incredible what they do. So now when we do events, all of our gift bags are created by Wasteware. And then in the bag, it also explains what it is so that other companies can look at it and say, oh, maybe I can use this in this way. So this is one of our partnerships. And then we also partner with Bog Water at our event. So we make sure that in terms of tangible thing, we have the right partners that can help us with the products that we need to really keep pushing that message forward.
I use sustainability as well. The word itself means anything that can be sustained. So I'm talking
Mm.
about businesses that can be sustained. That's what I'm talking about because often when people come together and they think they want to make a social impact, but they don't know how they can sustain the social impact, number one, and they don't know they can sustain their business through the social impact. So that's where I try to help them say, hold it, there's a business case and a personal case of meaning that you can have a social impact and benefit your employees, benefit your customers, your collaborators. It extends and extends. So I particularly like that you've chosen a collaborator that is doing an environmental sustainable initiative to educate, but you're Switzerland. Everyone has a voice.
Exactly.
Can you give us some examples of how you've been able to amplify your beneficiary who may have not been able to be successful, like those people in Brazil or those fashion people in smaller communities, perhaps in
Yeah.
Africa or in India or wherever, that may not have had an opportunity, but because of your platform, they've received exposure and have had an opportunity.
Yeah, no, for sure. I just had a recent case that was like super exciting, and I'm really hoping to do more with this because I saw the power just in one person, and I'm like, okay, we could do this with so many others. About 2 years ago, or maybe 2.5 years during COVID, we did a campaign in Brazil where we partnered with an organization called Jota Crea, where they take talent from the favelas of Rio, models, makeup artists, filmmakers, everything, and they bring them for these opportunities for these jobs that come up once in a while in Brazil. We did a campaign. They were incredible. It came out beautiful. And one of the models we became very close to because he reached out for help post the campaign, saying the campaign was amazing. But on the day to day, as much as I tried, there was no opportunity given to me because of who I am, what I look like. So we actually ended up, even though he didn't speak English at all, and we're a US based company, we found something internally that he could do and be a full time team member of ours. So we ended up hiring him for that position. I always kept my ears open because at the end of the day, really his dream is to be a model. So even in Brazil, with who he is, he's trans, he's African American, like a lot of things in Brazil, still being there's racism and different things there, very tough for him as much as he tries and as hardworking as he is. So I went to an event during New York Fashion Week in February and I just overheard someone speaking about a campaign in Brazil. And of course, right away, I'm like, this is my chance. So I told this individual, I said, I worked with this incredible group from the favelas, da, da, da. Long story short, this campaign that this gentleman was doing in Brazil, the name of the company is Bottle Top. And he was actually doing this campaign to share stories of people in Brazil with the UN and creating this huge campaign around it. So he ended up using this gentleman that worked with us and many others of his colleagues in the favelas. And it was just incredible to see how one opportunity like that went from this person that no one ever listens to, no matter how hard he tries, to now being internationally recognized through this campaign and what that does for him in his life. And just having, it's not even so much what that one job is going to do for the rest of his life, but it's more the belief that it reinstills in him to keep going because that's very hard for a lot of people. So that's just one of the things that we've done recently that I was so excited about. So, as you say, the sustainability aspect of maintaining a business that is focused around what we do is a challenge, especially when you want to put relationship first. Because as soon as you talk about money, it's as if though people think, you're my friend, why are you charging me? So, I actually started getting an answer for that as well. So, I think this will help a lot of people watching because I know as a startup, you want to have everyone like you. And sometimes you're like, oh, you don't have to pay me. I used to do this when I started. And then I moved from you don't have to pay me to you know what? This is 10,000, but for you, you only have 1,000. Okay, I'll do it. And these are huge companies that I know have more than 1,000. But today, having the belief and seeing what I've been able to do for people through the money that I make, which is very impactful, I now say to these individuals that try to do things for free with us and they're huge companies, I say, here's the problem. So just like you, founder to founder, you're for profit, I'm for profit. If I don't charge you and you value and you take the value from what I'm going to give to you for free, you're going to keep growing and we're going to have to shut our doors. So I'm not no longer going to have a business. The minute I shift the conversation to that, where I thought in the past the person would be like, no business for you, they actually respect you more. And then they actually want to do business with you and they pay you what you're worth. I think it's very hard when you're in a social, sustainable fashion business, but I think you just have to start relating to them, even though they know. But once they see that you understand and they see that you're not, shift everything. You just have to be honest.
That is such an important piece. I was spinning today and before our conversation, and there's one of these things that was coming through my mind again. And like yourself, women entrepreneurs, I can't speak for all entrepreneurs, but we get asked to do things for free constantly. And as a speaker, a professional speaker, I get asked to speak for free for women empowerment all the
Courage.
time. And I'm thinking, how can I empower when you won't empower me?
Yeah.
The value system isn't working. And yet, almost every woman focused opportunity does not want to pay their speakers. So I appreciate your comment. I found when I was working with organizations that were more corporate, they needed to pay. But these women organizations don't pay. And it's just very frustrating because I've got to eat.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're going to be successful and I'm going to be closing my doors. I just
Yeah.
love that analogy. Now, there's quite a few places I want to go with you, but I would be very much remiss if I did not mention your book. It
But the
Can Be You, Humanizing Homelessness. What inspired this philanthropic project? And how does that relate to some of the other initiatives that you're doing?
Thank you for bringing that up, by the way. I had a very kind of full circle moment where this book came about, and I feel like it all happened for that book to come out. But I was born in Rio, Brazil, and I was born in a very affluent household. So I really had everything and more growing up. But I remember I would walk out on the streets, and in Rio is very, you have the very wealthy and the very poor, like right next to each other. I would go out of the house when I was 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, really young age. And I would walk down the street. And my dad, I would see someone and I would be like, Dad, let's buy him a blanket. Dad, let's buy him lunch. Dad, let's buy. It was just instilled in me from a little kid. And it was something that like I really like just, I don't know, it felt wrong not to try to help. So I would do that all the time. And then growing up, I saw where people could have downfalls and how money can not be there when you think it's always going to be there. And then fast forward to when I started the business, Fashinnovation, for the first year was exactly proof of concept. So no one knows you. People are not going to pay. Sponsors are not going to trust you to pay. They want to see what you're going to do before they start paying. So for a full year in growing the business, because we did it full time when we started with 2 babies at home, we got over ourselves and came to a day, and this was 4 years ago now, where we woke up and we were 3 months behind in rent. There was no way we were going to catch up and we didn't know where that money was going to come from. So literally, we lost everything. We literally just packed little bags. We left over furniture, house, kids, everything. We just took the clothes that were necessary and we went to Brazil and we lived with my husband's mother for 8 months in a 1 bedroom apartment, all of us together. And at that time, we had the 8 months where we really believed in fashion innovation. And we're like, we're going to get over this hump. Your mom is helping us. Thank God. Because we didn't even have money to go to the supermarket and buy groceries for the house for his mom and us. It was like a moment. And it was definitely the biggest struggle that I've gone through in terms of what could happen to people. And this could happen to anybody because it happened to us. And regardless of my life before that. So with all of that happened, and then of course, 8 months later, thank God, we people started believing. We really pushed it hard. We got back on our feet. We moved back to the US. Now we're doing great, knock on wood, and like things really turned around for us. And we really worked hard to show people that this really was something that needed to be. But through those 8 months, coming from very wealthy family background, to then seeing how fights and things could happen because of money and having this love-hate relationship with it, to then starting the business and losing everything and having to explain to our kids why they were going to go back to no toys, nothing that they knew throughout their first 2, 3 years of their lives, to then recouping everything. I was like, this really could happen to anyone. Had it not been for his mom or family, my family that also supported us when we were there and everything, we would be homeless. So that's really how the book came about, and super passionate about it and super open to sharing my story because I think that's how you build up others that could be going through the same thing. That's it.
And thank you for sharing because the truth of the matter is a lot of people are right now. COVID was very hard on so many entrepreneurs and small businesses and people in general, but it really was so hard that people were trying to keep the doors open and many didn't. Many didn't. Many had to pivot their businesses. I did. We had to change our financial situation up, which means I don't have my husband working with me as much as he used to. But you have to do it. So thank you for sharing the story because it's real. Now I'm curious, after that 8 months, what turned in order for you to start climbing out of this situation?
I think really a few things when we started the business. It was the first time we were both acting as like entrepreneurs of really building a corporation. I was a solopreneur for many years in my past life, I always say, but as a publicist, but this is the first time of building an actual business. And in our minds, we were like, to build a business, you automatically have to hire a team and like all these different processes and internal things that we thought we needed as a business, but in reality, we didn't. So first, it was just like getting rid of a lot of things that we thought we needed to implement. And when we did get rid of it and then really just focus on what we needed to focus on, that was definitely key for sure. Because then, of course, takes costs away of what we had at that time. And then another thing, we wrote down the name Fashinnovation on a piece of paper. And within 2 months of just coming up with the name of the company, we hosted our first event with over 40 speakers, 500 guests. Everything was free to everyone, everything out of pocket. So then having that, we started thinking, how do we use what we did do, which wasn't much, but there was proof of concept there, to really build out small packages that companies don't have to fully trust us, but they can say, I'm going to try it because it's not that big of a gamble. And I've seen what they were able to do in just 2 months. So being able to build out these new, smaller projects, getting that money in, of course, saving for us to be able to come back, but also getting rid of things that we automatically think you need when we start a business and you don't, which I think is a big thing, right? When you see a lot of people wanting to start a business, they're like, I need $1 million investment. And you're like, for what? What's that for? Because in reality, if it's not a product business, it's a service business. You don't really need that much when you're starting, but we thought the opposite.
That's a huge learning. You don't need all the things to be all the things. I'm fascinated with the timeline on that. When did fashion innovation idea come at the end of the 8 months or
No,
at the beginning of the 8 months?
the beginning. So we came up with the idea July 2018. My husband came home from another event that he was at and said, I have an idea. And the first event that we did was September 2018. So literally July, August, September, the event happened. And it was all through just cold email. We had 40 speakers and it included United Nations, Shopify, Google, FIT, Levi's, all of these huge companies. And it was all cold email directly to that CEO that we wanted on stage. And this is when they were replying back saying yes. But of course, in terms of getting a sponsor, it was our first event ever. So no matter how big the name was on stage that we were getting, no one was willing to really pay to participate. So then that was out of pocket, but it was a good move because it obviously gave the credibility that we needed to build out those projects in the 8 months of struggle. And it was maybe, I can't say it wasn't the smartest move. I was about to say it wasn't the smartest because then we did lose everything because we put so much money out. We needed to do it.
It's tough, right? Because what comes first, that chicken or egg kind of thing. But at the same time, there is that all that work that gets done up front. And then the reality, we often what can happen, I don't know if this happened to you, but when you have success, you think it's going to continue. You do an event,
Yeah.
people love it, and you're thinking it's gonna. Unfortunately, it's not necessarily the case. Like, then you've got to get creative and innovative and create a whole system, which is what now you have done from the sounds of it to do that. Now, going back to the beneficiary, the people that you're giving free education to, why do you think when you started fashion innovation, and why was the concept important to them then?
If you're in an event that is not fashion related, but you say you're in fashion in that event and everyone else is not in fashion, they don't take you seriously. It's really interesting. And they're like, oh, that's cute, clothes, that's cool. Meanwhile, fashion is the biggest business in the world. And so that kind of fascinates me how people have this mentality behind it if you're not in it. This is why I think these huge companies said yes to sending very high C suites, if not CEOs and founders, to speak at an event that they knew nothing about, because we did see that white space in terms of like really showcasing fashion as a business. And then really also showcasing how much fashion needs in terms of solutions and ideas from different industries to bring into fashion for the industry to be able to move forward. And so I think that education was always necessary. We've had a lot of people that have attended our events as students and now started companies, and they've come to us and said that their companies were inspired due to conversations and what they've seen at Fashion Innovation. That's, I think, where the education is very beneficial to a lot of people.
This is interesting because you're not only elevating the individual, but you're elevating the industry as a whole. Why is what you offer important today? Why do
Today,
beneficiaries need it now, or do they need it now more than ever?
100%. So first, the industry right now is a big question mark. There's so many changes, and you're seeing some of the biggest companies and even like mid-tier, let's say to enterprise, you're seeing them figuring out ways to change, to engage the consumer more. There's so many things that need to happen due to the changes because of COVID. A lot of those changes are because of COVID, and bringing the consumer back, engaging them more. E-commerce is something that now everybody needs to where before retail. So people shift into that. So I feel like right now more than ever, people need to know about the solutions that exist, especially also in sustainability, because a lot of brands are like, I don't know what to do to be sustainable. You're not doing the right research and you're not in the right places. And I'm not saying that we're the only in the only right place, but I'm saying that we're one of those places where you could find out, because all of the solutions that a brand needs throughout supply chain to be fully sustainable, let's say 99.9, because no brand is fully sustainable, but let's say as sustainable as they can be, exists. But the thing is that a lot of these companies and a lot of these individuals that have come up with things that could be like game changers, they're startups. And the problem with the industry is that they're not very quick early adopters, and they like to see a colleague try it before they do. So a lot of times when we introduce them to an incredible solution, they're like, that's amazing. Who's using it? And if you say no one yet, they're like, oh, so we're going to wait for a little while to see how it works first before we adopt it. But then this is a problem. I think not only on the education front, but also because we're huge advocates for connecting people. So one thing that makes us really different, I think, from many companies that do similar things is that a lot of people say, oh, this is my IP. This is my IP, so I can't share this contact with you, or this is my contact, so I can't just introduce you. Like, I need to be there. They're not willing to just be like, hey, you can do great things with this person, connect, to where we do this all the time. And people have said things to me like, you're going to live forever because you just give away your contacts, but they're not my people. No one belongs to anybody. We're all trying to connect with each other. We're all trying to unify as much as we can so that we can help each other as much as we can, and we can come up with a solution. I think on those two fronts, the education and what we do in terms of really truly connecting people, I think that's why we're growing so much, because I haven't seen anyone else been so open to want to do those things. And I think the industry finds it refreshing. We had someone ask me the other day, they were like, how many people do you have in your team for like talent? And at the time, this was like 2 years ago. And I was like, it's four of us in total. And they were like, four of you and you get I remember this conversation, but they're like, there's four of you and you have Fern Malice appear on a Saturday morning to do a pre-recording at an event, and on a Saturday morning, and it's four of you reaching out to her. I'm like, yeah, because we built that relationship with her like many others. And it makes a difference when you really build a true friendship relationship with people to where they also want to see you grow. They see what you're doing is impacting. And then that just helps them want to impact more and connect more. This is the only way forward.
Let's dive into that a bit.
Yeah.
You do have some really cool collaborators. You've had them since day one. And where you got them day one was you were giving them a platform that didn't cost them anything. Things have changed. Yay. So, do you have any advice for our audience on what are three strategies that are important for collaboration?
So I would say the first thing is always make sure that there is benefit on both sides. That's super key. I feel like a lot of people go into collaborations because they see what you can do for them, but then what they do for you in return, you're not really getting much, or it's the other way around. And I think that's not fair. And I just don't think that's a good collaboration. So that's number one. Number two is really getting to know not only the company, but the person. Sometimes we forget that there's a person here, right? If I say, oh, I'm speaking to Kenneth Cole, people are like, wow, Kenneth Cole, but they're not thinking of Kenneth the person. They're thinking of Kenneth the brand. Those are two completely separate things. So I think it's really allowing that time, if you're granted that time by that person to get to know them on a personal level, it changes the whole game in terms of when the collaboration does happen. So that's definitely something that I think is very easy to do when you're looking at these celebrity personas. One more thing would really be maintaining throughout that collaboration, making sure that you're in the know of the changes that are happening so that sometimes you can either adopt new things that you can put into that collaboration, take away things that are no longer working, but also realizing when a collaboration has like some of them have a deadline, right? It's an expiration date. So like realizing when it's like time to part ways and in a good way, and then being able to just transfer them to other colleagues of yours that can then take that over. So I think those would be the three things that really come to mind.
Fabulous. Thanks for that. So, I have to ask, how did you get on the NASDAQ ringing the bell?
Crazy. I don't know.
Like, how to, that picture of you is just like, I own the world. And
I
look,
felt really
so how did that come to be?
so funny story with that. So they did invite us. This was like on them. It wasn't us saying, can we ring the bells? First, I will say that it did start with us creating, again, here it goes, creating a relationship with the NASDAQ team. So every event that we did from, I would say our second event, it wasn't like that much further down the line. We started reaching out to NASDAQ and saying, hey, we have this event. We'd love to have you guys as guests. We have this event. We'd love to have you as guests. Oh, check this out that we've done. So just keeping them up to date, creating relationships. They would come to our events. We would have conversations, getting to know the person. So the person that was in charge and all these things. So just really, we had this relationship where they would come to our events. They would have a great time. We would talk to them on a personal level, have a drink with them at the after parties, just create that relationship. And then during COVID, they reached to us and they said, hey, so we've been noticing that a lot of your speakers are NASDAQ held companies. And it's pretty impressive how many of them you have in your platform. And it's pretty impressive, like how you guys keep growing and bringing the world together. And they said, we do have these moments where sometimes people that ring the bell, they're not available. So then it's an empty slot. And then we invite someone to take over that empty slot. Would you guys be interested if this ever comes out? I was like, yeah, but so literally for 2 years, almost every fashion week, they would say, we might have one with this date work if it comes up. And we would say, yeah, and it would never come up. And then it came to a point that we were like, it's not going to happen. Sure. And then one day, this is like February, we finished our last event before this one is coming up now. And then we just got an email and they said, the bell is available. We'd love to have you come and ring the bell. And this is the power of relationships. So they give us 24 hours to invite 75 people to be there with us for the moment. And in 24 hours, we emailed all of our speakers. So we emailed Business Insider, Tommy Hilfiger, Tiffany and Co. Everyone that we like just emailed a ton of people. And within 24 hours, we ended up getting 54 of our community members, brands, technologists, media, FIT showing up for that moment. So it was incredible. That was a moment I'll never forget.
It would be remiss if I didn't ask you about your partner. Being someone who's worked with my love partner as well as my partner in work, how's it going?
Are you asking me now?
Yeah.
I will tell you, it's not easy to work with the husband. Not easy. Like really not easy. At the same time, it's very gratifying when things do happen. I have to give him credit. He's the brain behind of most of what your fashion innovation, if not almost all. Like he really is genius with like ideas and how like sometimes I'll wake up to emails from people that I'm like, how did this person find us? He's like, couldn't sleep last night. So he's amazing. But at the same time, we have very different personalities. So I'm very much kind of the relationship, likes to have fun. I like to do what I like to do. And what I don't like to do, I tend to get maybe lazy at sometimes, or he's, and I'm okay with just, if everybody's happy, I'm happy. But he's really go big or go home, IPO, like he has like the visions are very high. So because of that difference, in working, it's very normal for you to have arguments, especially with your husband. And I've come to learn, and he tells me this all the time, and finally it's sunk in. But every time we have an argument and I get a very emotional, I'm very emotive, which is not good. And I really like, because he's not at all. He's very, very like strong. So when we fight or argue, I would say I cry, and then he's, don't take this personally. There's the business Jordana and there is a personal Jordana. I'm not speaking to the personal Jordana. I'm speaking to the business Jordana. Nothing that I'm saying to you now has to do with the personal. So now that we've started setting those boundaries, it's helped a lot, but it's still not easy, but it's fine.
I'll share something that was shared with me years ago, and I share with many people I coach now, among many other things, is if you can receive information and just see it as information,
That's a
because
good one.
you're emotional, and I am as well, and just see it as this is information you can choose to accept or deny.
I,
It allows for that a bit of that buffer for you. A friend of mine, Derry, shared that with me years ago. So a big shout out to Derry because I know she listens to my podcast. Yeah, I've used it in my coaching. I live it, I breathe it, I remind my husband of it because it's so powerful. It allows you to remove yourself
I
from,
love that.
because let's face it, marriages can be very emotional. The best ones that opposites attract in personality, not in
Yeah.
value.
No,
So
100%. And I love what you just said. Accept it or deny it. I'm going to start using that. I've never thought about it in that way. Yeah, because I tend to accept everything, and then I'm like, "But I don't agree, but I accept it, and then it hurts me, and it's a whole thing."
so we're going to dive into our 10 in 10.
All right.
So this is going to be a challenge because 10 and 10 means 10 questions and only 10 seconds to answer it.
Okay, I got
All
it.
right.
I'm here
Which means
for it.
it's short and it's sharp. Do you agree to the terms of engagement, Jordana?
Yes, agree. I'm ready.
All
I like a
righty. Here we
challenge.
go. What is one thing you wish you knew prior to engaging down this path of your organization, but particularly the social impact it is making?
I wish I would have done more knowing that I didn't need as much to make those things happen.
Okay. So more research to make
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. What is the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
It's impossible. You can't do it. I hate it when people say that.
What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Someone told me once that secret to success is to sometimes shut off your brain, take out your heart, and place it in your hands. Magic happen.
Amen. What is one piece of advice you would give to an entrepreneur who wants to have a social impact?
That the more you grow your business and the harder you hit on the profit side, the more opportunities you can give in the long run. So that's really what ends up being sustainable, and you can give back a lot more that way.
What's your best leadership advice?
Is really, it sounds cheesy, but anything you set your mind to is truly possible. To look at something that we've built with no resources and to today be doing all of these things that we're doing with all the context that we're doing it with, it's really about persistence and passion. Persistence and passion. Focus on those two things. Can't go wrong.
Okay, what would be your best leadership advice to lead a team of people? And
I would say treat them as friends, but draw a line in terms of like when it's business and when it's fun, but definitely do have that fun and that friendship involved in leading your team so that they trust you enough to be fully themselves, because that's when you can take the best aspects of who each person is and adopt that into your business to make your business more successful.
Now, I know you have children, Jordana, but I do not know if you have a boy or girl. But do you have a child that's 10 years old or near that?
I have 5 and 7, two girls,
Okay. So
but
this
actually they're 16.
okay. So this is a good question for you to prepare for the next few years. If you had a daughter who was 10, 10 is a very important time for a young girl. What advice would you give to her?
So this is something I already tell my kids now, but and this is to anybody, but to 10-year-olds. Listen to your inner voices much more than you ever do to your outer voices, because internally you're here. You're meant to be here for a reason. You're you because you're you, and that's what makes you unique. So I think listening to yourself and believing in yourself in every aspect of who you are is going to allow you to understand where you want to go in your life. That's what I would say.
Fabulous. What piece of advice do you wish you had when you were 10 years old?
That it's okay not to be like everybody else, and that it's okay if I'm not evolving in the same time frame as others are. I think that would have been crucial for me.
Okay, great. Thank you. What is one thing you had to do that made you uncomfortable, but if you didn't do it, you wouldn't have had the desired impact on your social initiative?
I think there are two things. I think the main thing that I would say that made me uncomfortable was when I was doing the homeless book. I had to go with the street team into the cities of Manhattan and give out meals and ask homeless individuals to allow me to sit with them and listen to their life story. And I was not comfortable at all, because in my mind, they're probably looking at me like, oh, look at this girl. She's fine. And she's asking me why I'm like this. But it was pretty impressive, the return that I got on that. The other one is that during COVID, when everything happened with Black Lives Matter, I wanted to speak about it, but I didn't know if I had the right terminology. And everyone was getting yelled at, and people were really fighting because people were doing things, not using the right words. And I didn't want to be that person. So I went out of my comfort zone for sure in asking individuals of color that I know today and are really good friends of mine to help me understand the right terminology, and to also help me understand the difference between, let's say, diversity and inclusion. Things that maybe I thought by me asking this, they're going to be like, this girl is very ignorant, but actually it was the opposite. They were like, it's amazing that you're opening up, that you don't know and that you want to know more. And I'm going to teach you everything there is to know about it. So that was a really special moment for me. I grew a lot.
It's interesting. I hosted a diversity, equity, and inclusion panel during several of different cultures so that people like you and I could ask those questions in a safe space. Because be it the Black community, the Asian community, the Indigenous community, they don't have all the answers either.
Yeah.
However, we have to start somewhere. So now we have to go do our due diligence without necessarily asking, because they are living their lives too.
Yeah.
And I can understand it's very difficult to ask the question. And yet, if we don't speak up and say something, then that's what concerns me the most.
Yeah.
To your point, that you may say the wrong thing, that's consciousness. I talk a lot about consciousness. It's doing those due diligence before opening our mouths.
Yeah.
But sometimes, guess what? We're only human and we're going to make mistakes. And saying something sometimes is better than just sitting quiet and saying nothing, but
Yeah.
saying it with respect. Who is the greatest female influence in your life and why?
I can say my mom. Yeah. My mom, hands down.
Why?
She turned the world upside down from when I was like 15 and my father left with me and three other girls, four sisters in total, to make sure that we never noted any difference in anything. And she's just always there no matter what. Like if we could be anywhere in the world with an issue. It literally looks like she takes a, what do you call those things that you put on when you jump an airplane? Like a
Parachute?
She goes down with the parachute out of nowhere. No matter where we are, what we need, she's there 24/7. And no matter, even if she doesn't agree with things that we do, if we need her, she's always there. So it's just amazing. I love her.
What are 3 values that you live by?
I would definitely say respecting every single person, no matter who it is. I think again, it's respect and love. And respect, love, think when you have those two things, I don't think it's like there are three. It's just respect and love and just realizing that we're all exactly the same. Take away economic and those things that we different, but if we just strip everything away, we're all exactly the same. So I think those two things go a long way.
Okay, great. Now, beside yours, which beneficiary do you think needs the most investment of time, research, and money? Besides people in the fashion industry that don't have access, which I would suggest would be the beneficiary, who else do you think needs the most time, research, and money?
The medical industry. I would say like the researchers, like the nurses, the doctors, like the people that are on the ground, but not just saying they're on the ground to make more money off of people, but we're really like doing the work. I think there's a big missing gap there, especially in the US.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jordana. Where can people follow you? If you want to just give them your handles, you're also going to have all your handles on your resource page on podcast.youmewe.ca, Jordana, and it will be there as well. But you want to give them a shout out to where to find you?
Yeah, thank you so much. So yeah, so my full name on LinkedIn, Instagram, it's IN. So IAN, my full name. Fashinnovation, see Instagram. Actually, it's fashinnovation.nyc all across YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, etc. And yeah, honestly, this has been so amazing. I feel like I was just talking to a friend and it was super fun. So thank you, Suzanne, for the work that you do. And I've loved it. Thank you.
Great. I'm glad to get to know you better, which has been awesome. Do you
Yeah.
have any sort of words of wisdom for our audience regarding making a conscious contribution to society?
I would say go out into your neighborhood and your community and your just surroundings and pay attention. Listen. It's all you have to do to come up with sometimes the best ideas that will really change lives. I think it's just really allowing yourselves to stop wanting to just listen to ourselves and our own voices sometimes and really listen to others because a lot of things can come out of that. One more thing, there's a lot of talk right now in the news about another shutdown and another COVID and all these things. And not to get into politics at all, I know it's hard, but just try to just focus on what you're doing, continue to grow what you're doing. Don't stop to go, why am I doing this if this is coming up? Because you're living in the now. Live in the now. Don't think so much about the future because you don't even know. It's not guaranteed to any of us. Just live it today. And
Love it. Listen in the now. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jordana, for sharing
then,
your insight, your inspiration, your social
yeah,
impact with us today. And for our audience to discover more podcasts with sheIMPACTpreneurs, transforming where we live and work with sustainable social solutions, please do visit podcast.youmewe.ca. And you'll find each guest has a page on our site. And if you like reading, you can watch, read, or listen to the podcast, or you can listen to the podcast on any platform that you'd like, including Spreaker. We spread the love. So please do share and review it. The more you love us, the more we will love you back and be able to continue to bring incredible women and their insights and inspiration to you. So until next time, I'm Suzanne F. Stevens, and I hope you feel empowered to make your contribution count for you, me, we.